Man, it's a good one right there coming in. Anyway, sorry for that. My buddy I have right now, gonna be a good one. Not ready yet though to extinguish. So, hello everyone. I am the Dependent Fanatic. I am here in Michigan and I love Michigan athletics. I am most fanatical about Michigan, but this video is about Texas football. The intro is short because I have a lot to get to in this video. After looking into Texas football, I am a bit concerned as a Michigan fan because Michigan plays Texas week 2 in Ann Arbor this upcoming season. We're going to go through Texas. Has great coaches. We're going to go through them to start. And then number 2 on the docket is Ewers is back. Number 3 is the rest of the offense. Number 4 is the potentially elite defense Texas can have. Number 5, I talk about schedule, but no predictions just yet. You have to wait. Become a subscriber on the channel to get my predictions, which will be before the season, you know. But I also do a preview for every Michigan football opponent that matters during the season. So after week 1, there will be a preview for this game specifically. So there you have all of that. I'm a little bit jealous of the overall production experience that Texas has back, but it starts with the coaches. Excuse me. Texas football hired Steve Sarkisian. He's been a million places. He's been around the world, if you will. At Texas, he is 25-14, 12-2 last season. Been building this thing up, and people are staying on the roster, getting redshirted, and staying. A lot of red shirts on this roster. Last year, Texas is now in the SEC, which is something that we have to consider on overall performance. You know, they're not playing Big 12 teams anymore. They're in a big boy conference. But Sark was at Washington for 5 years, going 34-29, and he was head coach at USC and went 12-6, but has been reborn at all the places he was offensive coordinator or quarterback coach up until that last year's season at Texas. He started at El Camino College as quarterback coach. He was at Alabama as an analyst after the Washington and USC rise and then fall for him. Then he was offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons and was fired in 2018 after 2 years there. Then he was hired as head coach at Texas. And hopefully his drug and alcohol problem is behind him, because Texas deserves great things coming up, and he is a big part of why they are they back. I hate that thing, back. Is Michigan back? Were they back before they won the title? Were they back when they won the title? Were they back? Are they back now after they won the title? People say no on all of them. So it's kind of confusing. Back. You had a great season last season. You didn't win your bowl game, but you're on the rise. As far as your offensive coordinator goes, Kyle Flood, is an O-line coach that was head coach for Rutgers for a while, 26-22 after Greg Schiano, in between his stints, I believe, until he had his own problems with players getting arrested and committing felonies and worse. He was fined and suspended, and he bolted to a familiar pro team, which is the Atlanta Falcons, as the offensive line coach for them. Then in 2019, another tie to Sark was Flood going to Alabama and being hired at Texas. So he has kind of followed Sarkisian where he has gone. Hey, I believe in second chances for everybody. And it's not like these people, well, it's not like Flood knew what was going on, but the thing is, don't cover it up, right? Anyway, defensive coordinator for Texas football is Pete, forgive me, Kwiatkowski. He was at Boston College from 1988 to 1996, so an old school coach here. He was at Snow College in 1997. That was a great year for Michigan, winning the national title. But at Montana State, he was defensive coordinator again and led that league in yards per game, points per game, and scoring defense. And in 2006, Boston State, Boise State, BSU's Boise State, hired Pete as the D-line coach under Chris Peterson in 2010. He was promoted to DC. Then in 2013, he followed Chris Peterson to Washington and went to the playoff as a 4 seed. He has been at Texas since 2021 as your defensive coordinator, and the defense, the secondary, probably was not elite last season, but we're going to dive into the players here now, starting with the quarterback, and I think your secondary will be better. But players begin with quarterback because everyone loves quarterback, right? Quinn Ewers, what happened? What is he? What happened to junior or senior? This guy is listed as a redshirt junior transfer. You have to have 3 titles just to say what year you're in or what. That's crazy. By our lads, which is what all the depth chart stats that I have came from, and the information, and the stats that I have came from normally the worldwide leader. So, hey, they have accurate stats eventually. So there is the coaches we're talking about, quarterbacks. Quinn Ewers. He went 272 for 394 passing last season. That's 69%. Bunch of passes for 3,479 yards. So kind of a low average, 8.8. A lot of dinks and dunks maybe. 22 touchdowns is kind of low, and 6 interceptions. He got 100 more completions though. Or he got 98 more attempts, and he had 100 more completions from last year to the previous season. So he is improving. Also, he had the same 6 interceptions from 2 years ago to last year, but had 7 more touchdowns last year. Arch Manning is there as backup for you guys there. So Malik Murphy transferred out, and we will focus on running back now. Plenty of running backs and wide receivers and tight ends. And you have 4 returning offensive linemen here at Texas. We're going to dive into it all. C.J. Baxter is a sophomore. He had 138 carries last season, 659 yards, and 4.8 is the average there. He had 5 rushing touchdowns, but he also had 156 receiving yards out of the backfield. Jaden Blue is a junior, 65 carries, 398 yards, 6.1 average, 3 touchdowns. He had 135 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. Savion Red is also a junior, so experience here. You have a running back room behind this offensive line. 30 carries, 131 yards, 4.4 average, and he had 1 touchdown. And then, of course, this Quintravion Wisner is a redshirt sophomore, but last season he had 12 carries for 73 yards, 6.1 average, and a touchdown. Can't leave him out, right? So we're talking production mostly. Do not yell at me if I don't bring up a freshman that you think is going to be amazing. We're talking who's back, what do we know. Um, no matter how highly rated that freshman may be. At tight end, Amari Niblack is a junior and he's a transfer from Alabama. 48 catches for 668 yards, 13.9 average. Or no, excuse me. That's Isaiah Bond I'm reading. The other transfer from Alabama. Amari Niblack had 20 catches, 327 yards, 16.4 average, and 4 touchdowns. And you still have Gunnar Helm, I believe, is a senior. He had 14 catches for 192 yards, 13.7 average, and 2 touchdowns. Catch a breath here as we go to the wide receivers. This is the team we're going to play in week 2, 2022 Big Ten Champs. Isaiah Bond, wide receiver. He's going to be your ex. He's a transfer from Alabama. 48 catches for 668 yards, 13.9 average, and 4 touchdowns. And then at your Z is probably going to be Matthew Golden, a junior, a transfer from Houston. But at Houston last season, he had 38 catches for 404 yards, and that's a 10.6 average, and he had 6 receiving touchdowns. At your H, wide receiver H, you have positions listed on our lad's site for Texas. That's awesome. Michigan doesn't give any information like that at all, ever. Maybe it'll change under Sharon Moore here, but I like how you can just go look at where they're listed. Except you have 13 positions on defense. That's kind of something that we'll talk about coming up. But Silas Brown is your wide receiver H. I guess that would be the slot, right? He's a junior transfer from Oregon State. He had 54 catches for 746 yards, 13.8 average, and he had 5 touchdowns. Also, he had 84 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. And then your offensive line. Well, you got John Tay Cook as kind of a... Them are your 3 guys at wide receiver. Not as deep as, say, the running back room you have, but very capable. John Tay Cook, the second, is a sophomore. He had 8 catches for 136 yards and 17 average. That is what we know. All right. Your offensive line, though, like I said, I think 4 out of 5 starters come back. Kelvin Banks Jr. is a junior. Hayden Connor is a senior. Your center, Jake Majors, is a senior. Your right guard, DJ Campbell, is a junior. And right tackle, Cameron Williams, is a junior. He is the one guy that did not start last season at right tackle. So your backups, though, you got a few. Nito Umeozulu, redshirt sophomore. Cole Hudson, a junior. Connor Robinson, a redshirt sophomore. And then you got some redshirt freshmen here listed. Trevor Gooseby, Jaden Chapman, and Peyton Kirkland could figure into this if they perform in spring ball, which spring ball is coming up for all these teams here at the end of this month. So there you go. That is Texas's offense. Now, as we move on to Texas's defensive depth chart. Wow. Like I said, they have 13 positions on a defense that you can only play 11 guys, but I understand you're multiple. You have roles and you have different packages and formations. And I'm going to try to do my best to name the starters, and then I'm going to give you all the players on this defense that are going to be really good. This defense is really deep. At the buck position, I think you got a starter there. Trey Moore is a redshirt junior. He's a transfer from UTSA. He had 45 tackles, 14 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. And then he had 1 interception as well. And then you have this position, lefty tackle, and it goes to Vernon Broughton, according to our lads, redshirt senior, 17 tackles, 1 sack, 1 pass breakup, and 1 forced fumble. At nose tackle, I think is going to be another starter for you. Tiaole Savea, a senior, a transfer from Arizona. 21 tackles, 1.5 sacks. And then you got the jack position, where you have Baron Sorrell, a senior, 36 tackles, 4 sacks. And then Ethan Burke is a junior that has 41 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. I think those 2 guys are starters for you as well at the jack position. So on the defensive line, them are the 4 guys, but backing them up are Justice Finkley at the buck position, 14 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble. Left defensive tackle. Yeah, they have left defensive tackle and right defensive tackle. Vernon Broughton, redshirt senior, 17 tackles, 1 sack, 1 pass breakup, and 1 fumble recovery last season. And then also at lefty tackle behind him, Jere Bledsoe, redshirt sophomore, 4 tackles, 1 fumble recovery. At right D tackle, you have Alfred Collins, a senior, 22 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 pass breakups, and really no depth under them. But at the jack, you also have Jamond Tapp, a redshirt sophomore that had 8 tackles last season. So there is your defensive front. It's loaded. I expect you to rotate some people and have that multiple defense. It's going to be scary. Then you have 3 different linebacker positions here. You got the WLB, you got the middle linebacker, and then the SLB. What's that? But the SLB is Maurice Blackwell Jr., a senior, who had 21 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 1 pass breakup. You have a couple guys at WLB, and I think them are going to be probably your 2 starters in the middle of this defense that are linebackers. Anthony Hill Jr. is a sophomore that had 67 tackles as a freshman last season, 5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 2 pass breakups. And then David Gabenda, or is the G silent? Is it Benda? Redshirt senior, had 50 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and 2 pass breakups. If some of these guys have went on or went to the NFL or graduated, let me know in the comments below. That would be greatly appreciated. Or if I'm missing an upperclassman that has had a production so far at college. At middle linebacker, they have listed Leona Lefau, a sophomore, 7 tackles. And then you have your another transfer from Alabama, a senior, in Kendrick Blackshire, who had 16 tackles, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery last season. So that's your core coming back in the middle of your defense. But like I said, the jack can do that. Your multiple. The spur position can do that. That's what I'm going to start with in the secondary for Texas. The spur position. Jade Barron is a senior. He had 59 tackles last season, 1 fumble recovery, 1 interception, and 5 pass breakups. Behind him, I think he's going to be a starter. Behind him, Jalen Gilbo is at the spur position, a junior. 8 tackles, 2 pass breakups. Austin Jordan, a junior, 4 tackles, 1 interception. So that's that position. And then at cornerback, CB1, I think, is going to be Terrence Brooks, who is a junior for you this season. So as a sophomore, he went 20 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 6 pass breakups. Behind him at CB1 is probably going to be Gavin Holmes, a senior, 15 tackles, and 2 pass breakups. And then your CB2 is damn good as well. A starter, of course, Malik Muhammad, who was a freshman last season. He's a sophomore now, had 32 tackles, 1 interception, and 4 pass breakups. Let's talk about safety roles, and it's got to be Derek Williams Jr. as your BS, is what it's listed, not SS. I know SS, that's strong safety. And you have free safety listed as FS, so I know that. But at BS, I think is your starter, Derek Williams Jr. He's a sophomore, but as a freshman last season, 41 tackles and 2 pass breakups. Now at free safety, non-starters, but could be. They could rotate. This team is really deep on this defense. You got Andrew Mukuba, who was a senior and a transfer from Clemson. He had 42 tackles for Clemson last season, one fumble recovery, and 6 pass breakups. And then Michael Taffe is behind him. Taffe, Taaffe. Taff? Redshirt Junior. I should know his name because he had 48 tackles last season, 3 interceptions, and 2 pass breakups. All for Texas last season. So there is the defensive depth chart. Now, let's dive into the schedule. What is this schedule going to look like for Texas next season in 2024? You let me know in the comments. Is this tough? Is this a hard schedule? Easy? Considering they're in the SEC and they have to play Michigan on the road, I think it's a pretty tough one. But you have Colorado State, August 31st. Win. Got them at home. Then the very next week at Michigan. Yours truly. That's a question mark for you, all right? Like I said, I am not doing any predictions this early. It's a question mark, though. Michigan has a lot coming back, too. A lot of youth that needs to step up, though. A whole new coaching staff, but it's at home for us. So, just saying, toss up for now. Then UTSA after that is a win. ULM is a win. Mississippi State is going to be your first SEC win in history at home, September 28th. And then October 5th, the very next week, you get your first bye of the season, going 4 and question mark. And then you have Oklahoma in the Red River Shootout. It's the rivalry and the Cotton Bowl. Anything can happen in this game, but I think you got to bye. I have to look at Oklahoma's schedule, see if they got to bye before that, but should be a great game. I give it a question mark as well. Could go either way. And then Georgia right after that. You get them at home. And I think you can win this game, but like I said, it's a question mark. So, at Vanderbilt right after that, you bounce back, you win your second true road game. Your second true road game of the season will be a win. Then you get your second bye before you have Florida at home. You're better. It's at home. I think it's a win. At Arkansas is a win. Kentucky is a win. At Texas A&M to end the season is a question mark for me. You're better, and it's at home with this Kentucky game. I hope that the depth for Texas, at the end of this season is when it's going to be questionable. That's when your depth needs to shine, kind of like Michigan last season. The players step up and all that. That's the important stretch of the season. Can you win out? No matter the record at this point, it's going to be 8-4. I think is the absolute floor for Texas. You're not going to lose any more than that game. That's the absolute floor, and that's not what I think will happen. Of course, the ceiling is realistically 12-0 with the experienced roster. But can you adjust to the new league and go to Ann Arbor and win all those? That's going to be an interesting thing to see for all these new teams joining new conferences. How well can you see what they're going to do to you and exploit it? Or are you just going to do what you do and it's going to be good enough? You might come in third like my nephew and I did Saturday night, man, in a pool tournament. It was kind of disappointing. We had them on the ropes, both the teams. We could have had first place. It was double elimination, and we went best of three all night. It was epic pool going on, and one time it was my fault. I chased the cue ball into the pocket, and they had ball in hand, and lost it. But enough of that. It's been a great. All right, so here we go. Where's my notes? Where's my outro notes here? Texas is going to be a really amazing team. I can see why they're top three or the top three in betting odds and in Vegas and all that stuff and all these polls. I agree. You're really good. I've done Oregon and I've done Ohio State and I've done Texas now in these deep dives. And I think Ohio State, I kind of didn't really dive in as much because I know, for you guys, because I know them and everyone knows what they have coming back. But I dived into Oregon even more than them. And I started to see, wow, they are actually a legitimate team. And then Texas now took a few minutes longer than that video to explain what I found out. For all of you Michigan fans, any fan out there, to consume. They got players coming back. They have really good stats and production coming back. Everything's in place. The coaches are on a second chance wave. It's in the SEC now. Man, this is going to be fun for all you Texans. So thank you, everybody out there, for listening. If you have watched until now, you probably should just subscribe and like the video. Maybe share with some other people out on social media, but I always want to just try and say, remember to have a great day out there. No matter if it's a crappy day, just smile to yourself or go blue.